Hello and welcome again to another episode of Be My Guest. A few weeks back we had John Atkins who was sharing with us on fostering. It was such a very inspirational interview and I'm sure you were tremendously encouraged, and I'm hoping a lot of you signed up to fostering. But today we have John Atkins with us again, who's going to share another little portion of what he's done over his career, which is very exciting. So I'm not going to take too much time. Let's just kick straight into the interview. So I'm going to welcome John again. Thank you, John.
Hi, Joyce. Pleasure to be here.
Being here again, part two. Now, earlier on, or should I say a few weeks back, you told us about joining the police force at a very young age of 17.
Yeah, they used to have a thing called police cadets. There are now police cadets they're introducing again, but they're called volunteer police cadets.
Okay.
So anybody out there, any young people from the age of, I think it's from about 14,
Okay.
they can join. It means going twice a week.
Okay.
If you look at your local police force, certainly in Kent,
Yes.
they're starting a scheme in Kent, but it's also working in London. Finding out about the police, it's not quite how it was,
Yes,
but
yes.
it is a good way of getting involved and being part of your community. So,
That's very good. At the age of 14.
Yeah.
That's very
So
good.
upwards to 18. So
Okay.
So
I think
just-
I actually had
yeah.
a neighbour who wanted to be part of that scheme, but I don't know what was happening. They were taking a long time. He passed all the exams, but they took forever and he ended
Yeah.
up not doing it.
oh, okay.
But maybe
Yeah.
they'll change now.
Yeah, possibly.
So you were so excited, you really loved being a cadet. You ended up joining the police force.
I did, yeah. So I joined the police cadets when I was 17,
Okay.
and then if you were suitable, because you still
Yes.
had to apply,
Mm-hmm.
at 18 and a half, you went into, they describe it as the regular police
Okay.
force.
Right.
So that's when you do your basic training, 13 weeks or 14 weeks of basic training, learning to march. That's quite
Oh,
interesting, and
that's
all sorts of
nice.
things. And they teach you the law,
Okay.
and
yes.
you have practical
Mhm.
to practice
Okay.
different scenarios and things. And then you go to your station, and I went to Gravesend. That was my
Okay.
first station.
Okay.
So not
Yes, I
far
have
from
a
there.
friend who knows
Yeah.
who knows you very well there.
So you would go on to in uniform
Right.
on normal patrol duties. So finding out
Was that the hard hat? Or
hard tool. You had both flat hat and hard hat. Yeah,
You don't
that's
really
it.
see that hard hat anymore.
Yeah,
Is it just in Westminster.
No, they have it. They have it still in I think in Kent and other forces. Some people are phasing it out. It is a traditional.
Yes, it
thing,
is,
isn't
isn't
it?
Yes,
Perhaps not very practical if you're running after someone or something like that. That's the first thing that falls off.
I know, you see them holding their hats.
Yeah. But
Wow, that's interesting.
yeah.
So what's the training like? Do you have to run 10 miles? or-
It's changed a lot now.
Okay.
But certainly, yeah, there's a level of fitness that you have to. Obviously, you need to be fairly fit in case you have to run after someone and things like that. You had to learn the law. We used to have to learn definitions of the law, so which is very important because if you turn up at an incident or something, you need to know whether, first of all, whether someone has broken the law,
all right,
and whether you have a power of arrest. That's very important.
Yes.
So you have to learn all the things that you need to learn to make sure that what you're doing is
That's
correct
right, yeah.
and
That
right and
first
proper.
point of contact is so important.
Absolutely, yeah, it's true, isn't it? It says on posters, isn't it? You never get a second chance to make a first
That's
impression.
right.
I think that's very true.
Yes.
Very important.
So in your days, we didn't have all of this social media,
No.
phones, everybody's
No.
recording. Before they even say help, they're recording.
Yeah.
How did you cope? How did you have evidence to prove what you said?
Well,
Right.
it's interesting because when I first started, we didn't have something called the Police and Criminal Evidence Act, which came in 1986.
Okay.
So we had something called Judges' Rules. So
Okay.
you had a pocket notebook, and police officers still have a pocket notebook
All right.
where you
Yes.
have to write everything that
That's
you've
right.
done. They still have to do that.
Okay.
But there was no tape recorded interview. So if you
That's right. Yeah.
interviewed someone, it was that wasn't there. So you just had to write notes afterwards. You just had to talk with somebody and write notes. So I mean that was a system that was used for years, but obviously things that need to improve. So once technology is there, you
Yes.
can utilise it, and it's good for everybody. It's good for the police, and it's good for the person that
Yes.
you're speaking to. I think.
I mean, I love the police, I really do, but I noticed in this country, we don't have guns.
No.
How have we been able to manage with a lot of knife, crime and things happening, and so many policemen have been killed because they're really unarmed or not adequately armed? Are they ever going to introduce guns, or what would you say is the remedy?
I think the most policemen in this country, and I share this view, we wouldn't like to see, we
wouldn't, no. As
we speak, we've been talking about things that have happened recently where we've had events happen recently in Manchester,
that's right,
where they've upped the arming of the police, so it's become more visible.
Yes.
But actually, on a day-to-day basis, so that's one of the great traditions of the police force in this country, that we are unarmed. People, even the criminals, know that we're unarmed. There is a sort of, and we police by consent in this country. That's how it is. It's different to probably anywhere else in the world.
That's right, yeah.
In this country, hopefully, there's no. If a police officer comes to do with something, they're not expecting money, which I know in many countries, there's so much corruption and things, isn't there? Here, it's not like that. There may be one or two examples, but generally, shouldn't be. And we just think, well, we don't need to be regularly armed. If you do need people with police officers with guns, then you can.
You do have them.
You do have them. Yeah, they do have them. When I started, there wasn't that. It wasn't like that. They still used to have. They used to have at the police station. They had a safe with hand pistols and rifles in. So if the situation came up, there were certain officers that were trained that would come in and they would take out a gun or rifle in the circumstances, but it's very rare. And when you look at the statistics, even now, I think, even despite what's happening, in terms of shootings and things in this country, it's compared to somewhere like America, where it's an everyday occurrence.
I was coming to that. I don't know what goes on over there.
Yeah, and even in Europe, I mean, obviously all the police forces in Europe are armed, aren't they? In comparison, our statistics are relatively low. There are concerns, aren't there, as you rightly mentioned, about knife crime and things like that. We've seen an increase in that, haven't we, which is not good.
Well, that's nice. I mean, it's always nice to speak to a police officer to know what it entails. Would you encourage people to join the police force?
Yes, I think. I mean, the important thing about the police force is it's different from the army, isn't it? Is that the police force was originally set up to be the community looking after itself.
That's right.
So I would encourage anybody listening to this to if you'd like to consider joining, do join, because we need people from all backgrounds to join, because that's important, because we police by consent, the fact that someone can walk around. I used to walk around on my own, all the estates, even in the dark.
Wow.
But you get to know people, you talk to people. I was a community beat officer for a number of years, but that was really good. And people tell you things, and that's the basis of how we police this country, and we continue to police, because people think, well, that's right, I don't like what I see, something needs to be done about it.
That's very good. So there you go, make sure you join the police force. Yes, good. Then also, I know you're a street pastor. What's that about?
Well, in certainly in Dartford, and it's a national scheme, so most towns have street passes. That's people from churches. We usually go out on perhaps a Friday, some places on a Saturday evening.
Okay.
Have a uniform. We're there to make sure that people that are attending nightclubs and places like that on a Friday night are safe. So young people, if they've had too much to drink, that sort of thing, we would help them with, for instance, the young ladies wear very high heels nowadays, don't they?
Tell me about it.
They tend to take them off, and then there might be glass or something like that on the pavement. So we carry flip-flops, so we might say, well, would you like a pair of flip-flops to help you walk?
Okay.
We carry water. We have we give out lollipops to people, so we talk to the young people just to make, and if they have a problem getting home at night, we'll make sure that they're safe. We'll help them to the taxi office. We'll make sure that they get home safely. And you might think, oh, well, what sort of response will we get from young people?
Yes, exactly.
Actually, the majority, that certainly all the time that I've been doing it, they are grateful that we're there. We've got some older people. We've got one lady who's in her 70s that comes out with us, and I think they treat her a bit like a grandma, so they come up and sometimes she knows some of the young people. But yeah, they're very appreciative generally.
So do you work with the police, or is this something?
So we certainly in Dartford where I work, we have a radio linked to the CCTV in the town. So we're all in communication with the door staff on each of the venues.
Oh, I see. That's good.
So we do work with the police, and they're grateful for our presence. So we're just there. We're not the police, but we're there just to make people feel safe. We go and have a chat. We talk to them. But they sometimes ask us, well, what are you doing?
Exactly.
So we're out till 3:30 in the evening, sometimes.
Really? 3:30? I was thinking of joining 3:30 in the morning. Oh my God.
And we just sort of tell them, we're from all the local churches, and we're here because we care about you,
That's very nice. So it's a voluntary scheme, or you get paid?
No, we don't get paid. It's a voluntary thing.
So if we would like to join, be a street pastor?
Yeah, well, we can give you the contact details to join that.
That's right.
So we're looking for some of our people. We have prayer pastors as well that stay where we operate from. So which is very important. So if you would like to be a prayer pastor, you don't think you want to go out on the streets, but you could sit and pray while we're out on the streets. We have a telephone, so we ring them and say, can you pray about if there's an issue happening? We get them to pray about it and that sort of thing.
Now, isn't that lovely? That is very nice, John. So much that you're doing for the community. It's amazing. Anything else that you do, maybe you're on camps or...
I'm also a member of the part of the police have a thing called the Independent Police Advisory Group. So I'm part of that. Only meets 4 or 5 times a year locally, but they draw people from all the community, different faiths. So I go there with my Dartford Church's Christian Faith hat on. So if there's issues with, like you say, knife crime, gang crime, and we've got a few issues happening locally, they just want people to be involved so they can help the police to deal with those particular issues. So I do that as well. But,
And your regular job? What's your regular job?
My regular job at the moment, I work with people with learning disabilities locally. Driving them the minibus or taking them from home to the various locations where they spend the day centre, so the day service.
That's amazing, because you retired from the police force after 20-something years?
30 years.
Wow. So. Well, we must say we love the service you do, and they're still doing. And thank you so much for your time. It's been such a pleasure having you on our talk show.
Pleasure coming.
And keep up the great work, and maybe I'll become a street pastor.
Yeah,
I would
that'd be great.
Join you on one of the visits. Make sure I had enough sleep during the day.
Definitely.
Well, thank you for your time. Thank you. And I'm sure viewers, you've heard everything that John has shared with us today. He's been in the police force. He's a street pastor. He works with the community. You can see he has a heart and a passion for working with people, which I hope all of us do have, because everybody needs somebody that they can feel comfortable just to see a smiling face, someone they can talk with, someone that can just encourage them. You don't need to know everything that's going on about them, but just give them a smile, give them a word of encouragement, a little touch. It makes a lot of difference. And I'm sure you've been encouraged as you've listened to this talk show, and all the contact details will be shown during the show, which gives you information on street pastors, joining the police, and other things that might be happening in your community. If you'd like to know more details, contact your local borough, and I'm sure they'll be glad to give you information. Well, it's been a pleasure having our guest on our show today, and I just want to say until another time, just stay encouraged, stay motivated, and stay inspired.